Welcome to the Laurent Collective podcast, where we go deeper than just surface talk.
Each week, we'll explore everything from family, business, creativity, culture, and faith.
To make sure not to miss an episode, be sure to subscribe and hop on to Instagram at Laurent Collective to chat with us about this episode. So today, we just wanted to kind of have a little fun chat today. We've just had a lot of single friends recently that are in the dating world right now. We've just had some really great chats with them recently. And so we just wanted to kind of share some thoughts that we've been processing as a couple who've been married for 19 years of just about things like interests and the idea of constant contact. So here we go. Hello. Again, very awkward. I don't know how to start this.
We're going to figure out how to start a podcast. Tell us ideas of how you think we should intro into an episode.
Yeah.
We would love to hear that from you.
That'd be good.
Do we need to have, well, we cannot sing. No one wants to hear me sing, that's for sure. So we will not do that.
We're not singing.
I think most people just go for it. There's usually not.
True. Well, anyways, we're thankful that you're listening today.
We're thankful you're listening, for sure.
Yeah.
We have a topic that we've been thinking about, should we talk about this or not? But we decided to go for it.
Yeah, it's just more of a lighthearted conversation.
Exactly. So we have, as a married couple and as a family, we have lots of single friends, and we would not change that. We love that.
Yeah, we love having that energy in our house and around our kids. And yeah, it's just so much fun.
I think, unfortunately, the world tells us often, once you're married, you hang out with married couples. And if you're single, you hang out with single people. And I don't believe in that division.
No.
We have found...
I think there's a natural tendency.
Yes, I think there is. And it can cause... it can be difficult, sure.
Yeah.
But there's a reason to fight for it and to have people who are single be part of your family and part of... I remember when we were first married, one of my really good friends was single. And we always called her our movie buddy, and she would always go to the movies with us and stuff like that. And she always felt like she was intruding. We're like, no, we love spending time with you. We want to do this with you and that kind of thing. And it's so great for our kids to see in their lives right now, a lot of single people in their lives. And of course we have friends that are married and people are married with kids and stuff like that too. But for them to see there are different stages of life that you could possibly get married or not get married at all. And those are conversations we always bring up with our kids too, and that kind of stuff. And just, so we're entering this with a conversation of saying if you're don't know somebody single and you are a married couple, get to know somebody, have them over for dinner with your family and you guys, or go do something fun together, because it brings so much life and richness. And I'm so thankful for having that part of our family. So that is a huge thing to say before we jump into what we're going to talk about, because we have a lot of single friends.
Yeah.
We've been talking about dating a lot recently with them.
Oh my gosh, yes.
We have been married for almost 19 years.
Yes.
So it's been a long time since we were on the dating scene. And we were dating before a couple years before we got married too. So it's been a long time. A lot of things have changed in that time frame.
Technology is so different.
Oh my gosh, yes. We couldn't even text each other. Could we?
Oh my gosh.
We couldn't.
We had answering machines. We dealt with answering machines.
We had a phone.
That was plugged into the wall.
Well, it was, by that time
when we were dating.
Yes, the phone was plugged into the wall. However, it was cordless. It didn't have to have the cord.
I guess that makes sense.
But it was plugged into the wall.
But it was plugged into the wall somewhere.
Yes.
When we were dating.
Yes.
The phone had to be plugged into the wall somewhere.
I did not have an actual cell phone, nor did you. Mobile phone? What did we call it then? I think it was car phone. Did we actually call it a car phone then?
Well,
no, it wasn't actually attached to the car. So, but we were sounding real. First of all, we were sounding really.
I do remember actually having a car phone.
I do too. I was not going to say that, but you just said
that. Literally was in this carrying case that you.
Oh my
God!
Totally had one of those, and we were not allowed to touch it.
Very, very. Sideways tangent.
I did not have a cell phone of my own until I think my senior year in university, and even then, you couldn't text. We didn't text.
I think you could, but maybe it was expensive.
It might have been expensive.
I think it was gosh, I don't even remember.
All that to say, there are a lot of things that are very very different in dating. And so we've had some really cool conversations.
Yeah.
And actually, just the last couple of weeks with some of our single friends, and two of them said, you should make a podcast about this. So here we are.
Here we are. We're gonna see what happens.
We're going to see what happens with it. So the one thing that we've had a lot of conversation with when it comes to our and this is no judgment. Let me say that first. This is no judgment.
Yeah.
This is not saying we're experts in how to date. None of that. These are just observations we have made recently and then have led to great conversations with our single friends.
And it's funny to, as we process with our friends, and then for us to then have a conversation after that with just us, and we're like, oh my gosh, we like, yeah.
I don't know
we'll
if we
get
would
into
have
this.
found each other.
Exactly. We'll get into that. Like, I just think, yeah. It's
So
just crazy.
The first thing is like the dating on, like, when I say online, that means like there's apps now, there's websites, there's all, basically it's like the idea of the dating profile, because all of those involve some kind of profile that you have to put up there, and then you are looking at other people's profiles to see like, is this a good match for me?
Yeah.
And so this has brought up a lot
crazy.
of funny conversation, because a lot of them, and we're not on them, so we are going from like,
so actually we could be slightly
we could be wrong
in
but
some ways.
according to almost all of our friends have been on some kind of app recently or in the past several years, and they all have said it's all interest based. So you're looking to see if you mesh with somebody based on like their profile, which is obviously only getting to know a small snippet of somebody, but their profile saying like, this person likes these XYZ things, their interest in this and that kind of thing. And so with that, we had a chat then with one friend, and she was like, well, what would your have dating profiles? Like, what would you have put on yours? And let's just go through that first. Like, what would you put on if you had to put a couple of things of like your interests and what you like to do, or the type of books you like to read, or movies you watch, or like any of those kinds of things? Tell me some things you would
First
put.
of all, I would not have put on what type of books I like to read, because...
You didn't read books then?
Because, well, no. If we're talking about, like, yeah, just in general, like...
That wouldn't be one of
it wouldn't have been one of the things that would have came to the top of the list that I would have said, I need that to be on my profile.
True.
I would never have done that.
You probably still wouldn't.
It would have all centered around probably sports of some kind, that I enjoy playing sports, mainly basketball, baseball, and golf.
Well, okay, stop right here. Put currently too.
Are we talking about current?
Well, it could be current and when we were younger, but like even currently, if we were in the dating scene now at our age, like your interest would be, what would you put now too?
It would probably look vastly different.
Well, I know it would look different from when we started dating, for sure. But if you were on the dating, I think it's important to show like. Gosh. So I'll give some examples, okay? So this is what we were talking about with our friend.
You totally dropped this on me. So
he's thinking right now. Yeah. He's processing.
I'm a late
processor. So for instance, our friend said, if you guys were on the dating scene right now, what would be on your profile? And so I started going through my list. And obviously, like you've heard me talk about it before, I'm an avid reader. I really love reading. I love reading things about business and like mindset and that kind of thing. But then I really like historical fiction. When it comes to movies, I tend to pick that as well. I tend to pick like historical fiction, and that tends to be the thing that I gravitate towards.
That's not necessarily something that you would gravitate towards. Like movies and TV is like you enjoy them.
Yes, I would probably say I don't really like watching movies and TV.
It's not necessarily something that you enjoy is to sit and do something.
That wouldn't be a choice, but if it had forced me to say something on there, then I would probably say that.
Yeah.
Like I think somebody was telling.
So let's just say that. So if for that style of things, my movie/TV/ reading interests would be completely opposite of that.
And what would it be?
It would be more like zombie, post-apocalyptic.
So true.
The world is trying to revive itself and things are starting anew, like all that, or space, or science fiction, all that kind of stuff. So it's like kind of the opposite.
You're really interested in how people choose to survive after like an apocalyptic
of some
type
major
of thing.
event. I'm really interested in that. I'm just the human nature and how we persevere. Yeah.
And
That's probably what it
I
more comes down to.
really am not interested in that at all.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. Even we were talking about for us, like we have become more foodies. But when we first started dating,
Yes.
someone in the room had never even eaten a certain item or
Is there
an
someone
item?
else in the room?
Is it item? What do you call this? Just
What?
had never had a certain kind of food.
I never
before.
ate anything green.
Well, yeah. Okay.
If
So
it was
is,
if it
that's
was
an
the
overall
color
marching.
if it was a color green, I more than likely did not ever
Which
eat
meant
it. Or I didn't
literally
want it
Pat
to
had
be.
never had a salad before.
Yeah.
And I don't even know what you would have put on as like I wouldn't put salad as my favorite food. But I think like what was interesting is like when
It's
we
very
started
simple. I'm a very simple person.
liked
in that
eating
sense.
certain things and introduced him to those. But on interest, it may have been like favorite foods, and I would have seen sometimes like, gosh, this guy's unhealthy. Like, I'm
True.
sure if I want to date him, kind of thing. I probably, unfortunately, would have made that judgment right off the bat.
Yes.
And that's just how it would have been. So those are just a few kind of
or
things.
like even if there was a part in your profile that would have been like places that you've been and experienced, there would have been very little on yours.
Yeah, I
at that
hadn't
point. For
traveled very
me, I
much
grew
at
up in a
all.
family that we traveled a lot, and we did experience a lot of things. So that would have been weird.
You would have seen that and been like, well, this girl hasn't been many places. Didn't mean it wasn't part of my heart that I
Right.
wanted to do
But
that.
again,
but there's
if
no really place to show sometimes some
Yeah.
of that stuff of like, I haven't done this, but I would like,
Exactly.
I mean, I guess you can put that in, like, I would like to do these
True.
things. I'm interested, even interest,
Mm-hmm.
like our interests, are different, like still today they're different, and that is what brought this up. Is we were joking and realizing like if we had read each other's dating profiles, would we have even, I don't know if it's like swipe right,
Swipe.
swipe left, whatever it is, hearted, contacted, all the different apps have different methods of that, but like would we have even done that
or
for each other?
would our profile even come up?
With it, yeah, because sometimes it's all this
each other.
algorithm
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
that they match them up because you do have similar things.
Yeah.
Ours would not. I don't know. Besides the interest of like, well, there's things we've grown
Yeah.
in
Oh,
interest
totally.
together that we now like, but when we dated, they were not necessarily part of the equation at all.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, there's definitely things that you're interested in or that I'm interested in that as we've been married for so long, those things have kind of rubbed
Become
off on each
common.
other.
Yeah.
And so we do enjoy those things now because we've enjoyed them with that person.
Like I would have
So
put on
it's,
my
again,
dating profile loves musicals, and you probably been like, what?
Yeah, I mean,
But now you have an
wouldn't
appreciation
it
for
wouldn't
them.
have scared me off, but it's not something that I would have put on my profile.
Yeah, well, exactly, exactly. And so
But now we love going to the theater and
yes, it's something we
doing
love to
that,
do and look forward to and
Hopefully,
stuff
yeah,
like that. Hopefully, yeah, we'll be able to go again soon, I think, hopefully. But it so the conversation with our friend just was a lot about like the fact that it's so hard and we feel for our single friends because so much is based on that kind of thing, is profiles. That it's hard to like sit in many ways sift through that and know like, well, this doesn't seem to be something that I'm aligning with what they say on this profile, but like maybe I should still give them a try because I don't know.
Yeah.
And
well,
I
and
think,
do people even get that option?
yeah, I know because of the algorithm
because
might
of the
not even
algorithm
be
and stuff
showing
like
you
that.
other
Because
people.
I think that at least for our relationship, those differences have created this really fun opportunity to
I
learn
still
from
don't
one
watch
another.
zombie movies
No,
with you, but
it's
I
created
tried.
it's created a unique opportunity for us to dive into each other's interests, whether we completely fully enjoy them or not. Like we at least it's an opportunity for us to step into your world, to understand you, to care for you, and to love you in a unique way. That again, I'm even thinking like, again, if your profile and you're like, oh my gosh, that person is so interested in everything that I'm interested in, that might not necessarily be the right combination. Like,
Would you want to be
your
with yourself?
Yeah,
I would
I mean,
drive
again, like
myself
that's
that would drive
exactly
me
what I
crazy.
think. Like, is that going to be enjoyable for you? I don't know. Maybe, I guess.
Maybe,
but,
possibly, I guess, but
I mean,
but
maybe there are key things.
Yeah, possibly. Definitely. Or I think like, somebody was telling me like a lot of people are putting like their Enneagram number on their
Oh, right.
profile and stuff too. And like even that, I heard someone say as
can't-
I was talking, the reason she was like, oh, if anybody puts this certain number, like I'm refusing to date them. And I thought, well, that don't do that. Like, that doesn't
Yeah,
mean
that's
like
not
people
fair.
can be healthy and not healthy, and all these different
Yeah.
things go into that. Like, we can't just write off somebody completely because they are that certain Enneagram number
Yeah.
too.
What is the Enneagram really quick? So if people don't know what that is.
Yeah, well, Google it because I'm not going to explain it
That's
very
true.
well.
That's a good point.
I would rather someone that is more of a professional, but we really, really love it. The Enneagram just shows a lot of how things are lived out and how you react to the world around you and stuff like that. And then things that maybe have been formed in you through your experiences and everything. I highly recommend looking into it. If
Check
you
it
haven't.
out. Look
Road
it,
Back
Google
to
it.
You would be a great place to, and we'll link it in the episode notes. And then we know somebody who does great coaching and courses and stuff like that too, that will link his information here too for resources.
If you're interested in Enneagram stuff. Yeah.
Great thing to definitely look into if you haven't yet. But back to the profiles.
Yeah.
I think that just we have found like we probably would not have gravitated towards one another besides purely based on looks possibly.
True.
But when it came to interest and stuff like that, we most likely would not have gravitated towards each other. And your interests change over time too. That was something we were talking about is, you eat salad now.
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
You do like it.
I do.
And that sometimes that's what you choose to eat.
Exactly.
And that kind of thing. But you change over time and that kind of stuff. But then we still have separate interests and it's okay. And that's actually, we encourage that. Like, and, and we do, some marriage work with people and getting ready for marriage and then after they're married and stuff like that. And there is nothing wrong with having separate interests. In fact, I think it's super important.
Definitely.
And there are certain things that like you'll participate in each other's interest and other things, like I said, like I have tried to watch the zombie stuff.
Well, you can't. I mean, there are other factors of
there are, but
things
but in general,
that
I'm not
doesn't interest you.
exactly.
So.
I get scared really easily, and I have bad dreams and stuff like that. And so that's just I've tried. Like I literally, there was a movie that we went to see in the theater that I thought this seems okay.
Well, no, you dipped your toes into Stranger Things, which I was over the moon by because I was so excited that you were potentially going to step your toes into something that I just absolutely love. I just absolutely love that series. And you watched most of the first season with me and you were like, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
I was having a horrible time sleeping. I was hearing things at
But
night,
you tried.
so
And again,
tried.
I think again, though, that act of trying like was so important to me.
Just as well as like you watched Les Mis with me. Now you did see it in person and you liked it, but we watched the movie or the remake movie of it, I guess. And like, I was like, he had never seen it, never read it, things like that. I was like, oh my gosh, this is very important. You need to watch this. And you were asleep.
I fell asleep
30 minutes into it.
To be fair, I was like, okay, well, Hugh Jackman's in this. I mean, it might be halfway decent, but yeah, it was.
But we did finally see it in person, and you did stay awake
I think
for most of it.
for
not
me,
your favorite,
some
but
of those things in movie format just I struggle with.
Yeah.
But if we go see it live,
Yeah.
that's a whole different experience.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other things that are going on and experiencing that pique my interest.
Yeah.
So
I think the thing that we were saying to our friend is because she was saying she's just finding difficult, and then we were talking to the guy friend too about it, like just finding it difficult because like, do you pick the person that has the same interest than you, or do you look for like one common thread or something like that? Like, what are the things that you look for? And like, again, people are going to not put certain things on there that might be something really quirky and unique that you find out later. They're like, oh, we have this thing in common.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of fun.
That is
or
really
this
fun.
is, that kind of thing. And it's, a great example would be like if I had read something and they were like a triathlete or something like that, I'd been like, oh, like I'm not that fit. Like I'm interested in sports and being healthy and stuff like that. But like, I don't know if I want to do triathlons with somebody or Ironman competitions or whatever, or Iron Woman kind of things. Like, I'm not sure about that. Here, our doorbell rang. We had a package. We are back.
Yeah, we're back. Sorry if you heard a bell ring.
Yes. So with that, I think it's just your interests develop over time. And like I was saying with the whole triathlete thing, it doesn't mean that like I wouldn't have clicked with you if that was something you were interested in and that kind of thing. I guess when it comes down to it, and I know it's easier for us to say as a couple that has been married for a while, this is totally easier, but like, don't discredit people because they don't have the exact same interest as you. It could actually be really fun. And that kind of thing. there's there's so many different things that I can think of that I would have totally, when we first started dating, and now if I were on the dating scene and that kind of thing, that I would read into somebody's profile and be like, nope, no, no, no. And some of those things, a lot of those things are things that are qualities or interests that you have, and I'm married to you, and it works, and that kind of thing.
I just think that there's some things that like are probably non-negotiables,
well,
like core
sure,
things potentially.
sure,
But at the same time,
those are important.
like,
And some of those
life
may not
would be
show up
so
on a profile.
boring, I think, if you spent, I don't know, like for me, I think I would really struggle if it was like if I was with someone who it was exactly like me.
It get really
I just
boring.
don't know if that would work very well.
Yeah. And I do think you touched on something that was important. I would guess some people, it depends on what you're on. Some people won't put things like faith might be really important to you. And if that's not something you share, I understand.
Yeah.
It may be like how you view roles in marriage, and whether it's traditional or more like shared or whatever it might be, or, that kind of thing. Like those are important things.
Yeah.
To have conversations
Yeah,
with
I mean, I
somebody that
think-
you're dating with. Some of that stuff does not come across in a profile, though. Those are the conversations you have as you start to date somebody and get to know somebody, and
Yeah.
then it's like, nope, that's a big red flag. That actually is going to be hard, and that kind of thing, and that's legit.
I mean, that's really good because you said, because I think a lot of times these dating sites and all that kind of stuff, like it only is really looking at the superficial and the surface stuff. Not superficial, the surface stuff.
Yeah.
And like, there's a potential that if you can just get through that surface stuff, that other person could be your person, like in a really cool way. But because we're, potentially only seeing the surface, that, giving that person a chance or whatever, like might not be, I don't know. I just really struggle with I guess your identity isn't in your profile.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that one of our friends was struggling with so much, like, what do I put on here and what do I not?
Yeah.
And then as we talked through this a little bit, it was kind of like, well, just put on there what you feel like is the right thing to put on there. But also then keep in mind that, like, just be open-minded in it, I think.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why we thought it'd be, just good to talk about it is because we realized, like, if we were on the dating scene
for
right
us, it
now,
was just like-
we may not have picked each other because of that profile interest-based type of thing. And we probably wouldn't have when we started dating too. Like, I mean, there were some overlapping things, of course, and still are, but the main things we had probably put, like, at Pat, and even when we first started dating too, I probably would have been like, oh, do you like to read books? And I can tell you what he said at that point. He jokingly was like, oh yeah, like I read the Cliff Notes if I need to
if
for
you know
class.
what that is, that's funny.
And I said, I think is Cliff Notes a thing still? Probably not.
I don't know if it is here in the UK,
Okay, well,
but maybe in the States. I don't know.
And and even I remember a scene after we were married. We were in this bookstore of these, and it had all these vintage books, and
That's
I
right.
was in heaven. And I'm like facing the vintage books, and I'm like, I want to buy one. I can't decide one, and they're all classics. And I say to Pat, "You read this, right? You've read this, right?" And he was like, "Turn around." And I turned around, and literally on the shelf behind me was the Cliff Note books. And Pat was like, "These are what I read." And sometimes I didn't even read the whole thing. I just read the Cliff Notes of the Cliff Notes.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Really not a big deal in the end, but it
No.
probably
I have so much to learn from you.
That's not what I'm saying. I have so much to learn from you when we have been in certain situations when we were in Italy, in Florence, and we had completely gotten lost.
Oh
We were in
my
this
gosh.
beautiful area that I don't think tourists are supposed to be, or not supposed, but just don't go.
Just don't go because that's
Because
not
it's
the
where
traditional way you go
No.
there. Yeah.
And it was getting dark, and there was like a fog, and literally Pat said, honey, if you're a little scared right now, it's okay. I know how to survive the apocalypse. I feel like the zombies are going to come out right now. He was totally joking.
It was very strange. It was
but
very
legit,
weird.
I was starting to get a little, I'm like, how did we get in this area? But no people. And then this random guy with the dog came.
Yeah.
Remember? And Pat was like, I'm not sure if he's a zombie. And I was like, stop it. You're scaring me. Anyways, all that to say, maybe one day it will come in handy. I don't know.
Stop.
But the other thing that we've been talking about, separate from the dating profile, and we did mention this a little bit earlier when we dated, like, cell phones and stuff like that, were not, as they were coming into being. texting, all that stuff. We did not, basically what it comes down to is we did not have a way to be in constant contact with one another.
Yeah. We're just seeing, like, with some of the conversations that we're having with our friends, is like, it seems like if you're not in constant contact with that person, that means something.
Yes. Like,
When
with
does it?
exactly.
Like-
and even now, you know, obviously you can see if the other person, number one, has read your message.
Yeah, that's
And then you can see, like, sometimes they start typing and then you can see that they're doing that, but then they stop. And then maybe they've done that and then they don't respond to you for 4 hours, or they don't respond to you till the next day. There's so much psychological stuff that goes into that we keep calling it the anticipation.
the anticipation. Yeah.
So if we would spend time together, then I would go home, he would go his separate way. And like, sometimes we would talk about, like, let's touch base, or let's do this tomorrow, or that kind of thing. And it'd be 24 hours or longer that we would not have a form of communication.
Yeah.
Sometimes we would call each other, things like that. But like, I didn't know what Pat was doing 24/7.
Yeah. Or even like when I was when you were in university and I was working my first job.
Yeah.
Like, we kind of had a set time of when we would call each other in the evening.
Because my lifestyle was
But-
drastically different than
there
yours.
was that anticipation all day of like, oh, I'm excited to talk to that person.
Yeah.
and whatever. So
Versus trying to make sense of, like, you know, and almost everyone we know who has dated has done this, both on male side and women's side, of like, oh, you know, I texted this person and like I haven't heard back from them in 2 days. And there's the whole ghosting thing and all that stuff. And so that's real. But because that is the thing,
yeah.
that sometimes, like, we've had, and then they'll say, but then he texted me back, but he waited 24 hours to text back. And I'm like, could it be realistic that like something was going on? Like that,
Right.
you know, they were working or they were with friends, and maybe that, like, I would probably be that person because I have people text me and I realize I'll see it. And then I'm like in the moment because I'm present with the people we're hanging out with, or that kind of thing. Like, is that somebody that really cares about not being on their phone to like
Right.
pull it out to text you back,
Yeah.
to actually be present with their friends that they were with?
I think
Or
I think it gets down to kind of like, what type of boundaries do you have, and that person that you're dating, like, might have vastly different boundaries. So like, they might expect this, but you're expecting this, and so it just
and
creates
you don't
this
know a lot of
weird
that stuff when you
dynamic,
start. That's
because
weird.
you can be in contact constantly.
Yeah, there's that's weird things when you first start dating. You'd be like, "What's your texting routine?"
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
like, you don't ask that stuff. So I get it. That's really
Maybe you
weird.
do, though.
I don't know. That's not a conversation we've heard from our friends yet,
Yeah.
of that kind of thing. But so there's that, and then there's the type of conversations you have on text versus in person.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And so, so many of our friends have, you know, on one side or the other, have had like the what do you call it? DTR? Is that the right way?
Determine the relationship.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, have had that conversation over text, or decide they're going to ask that question over text. And that, I mean, that has been a running theme with almost all of our friends, is like, oh gosh, like somebody just texted me and asked me this question. I don't feel like this is the right place to have the conversation. Or on the other side of things, of like, I don't understand where this relationship is going. I think I'm just going to send them a text and ask. And yeah, how does it make you feel? Like, how would you have felt if that was us? And I was like,
Well,
random text. We're not on a topic, but by the way,
to be fair,
well, you did do
I asked you and tried to understand
You
where
used
our
the old
relationship
school
was
form of
with
text.
a note. So I had to write something on a piece of paper, and I left it for you to read.
What did you write on said piece of
So-
paper? Because it is kind of funny.
I think I just said, "Are you my girlfriend or not?"
Do I call you my
Oh
girlfriend?
yeah,
or
that's
not?
it. Do I call you my girlfriend?
And what was the options?
And it was yes, no, and I don't remember.
And then I think you said, please say yes. Like, there wasn't
Did
a
I?
maybe. Yeah. It was.
I mean, I was pretty sure what box you were gonna check, but at the
We
same
hadn't
time,
really defined our relationship for sure.
I think we were, because I think it was like we were going our separate ways for like a break.
But you know what's funny about this, though? This shows our day and time that we lived in. He did that right before I left I was in university and I was leaving for like a Thanksgiving break. And I did not actually, because we did not have cell phones, I did not have a phone number to call him. because I remember that was very awkward. I couldn't even, you had already left and I didn't have a way to.
You didn't have my parents'
I had
phone
given you
number?
my phone number to call my parents' house once I
Maybe
got
that's
there,
what it
but I
was.
didn't have yours. So he had left me with this note. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I
But
can't
again,
even
but
respond to him.
we created an time of anticipation.
We did. We did.
Yeah.
Yes, but then I was like, what if he doesn't call me? How do I answer
Yeah.
him? Like, all that kind of stuff. But
I don't know. It
all
just
that to
seems
say-
so difficult with the idea of like we're always connected to one another.
yeah, so there's something about,
It's
and
just-
it's not, we're not giving advice here. We don't have advice on it because I don't have advice on it. Like, I
Yeah,
think
we
there's,
haven't really.
you know,
had to
we've done, I
experience
think
that.
what we've realized that we've talked a lot of friends like off the ledge, if that makes any sense, of like, whoa, before you think that the relationship is completely, like, could there be other things going on and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I also think like just in general, communicating through a text can be read in so many different ways. Like,
oh, the way, yeah,
like-
we get in fights over text
Right.
because, like, I think that Pat's being like too demanding
Too
or
short
rude
or whatever,
or
yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. Or even for us as a married couple, sometimes I will text Pat because he's not with me and that kind of thing, and say something, and then I get angry because it's been 15 minutes and he hasn't texted me back.
Right.
And then he'll get home and walk in the door. I'm like, you didn't stop and get the thing at the grocery store? And he's like, what are you talking about? And I said, I texted you. Why did you not respond?
Mm-hmm.
And he'll say, well, if it's an emergency, you should have called me and I would have answered the phone. But on a text, I was with this person on a walk with this person. I wasn't going to be rude and look at my phone.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I felt it go off, but I figured, again, if it's an emergency, we have a rule. You call each other and you call multiple times if you can't get a hold of them, if it's
Yeah.
a true emergency, and that kind of thing. And so even with us in our marriage, like, texting is difficult for us as well.
Mm-hmm.
We still feel that thing. Like I just said, we still feel that, like, why hasn't he responded to me
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. But like, that's just real life. Like, things happen. And I think that's like taking yourself, and it's hard when you're dating, you're
Oh yeah, and you're excited
emotionally
and-
connected and you're excited and stuff like that. You want that connection.
Mm-hmm.
But realizing, like, somebody may be in a work meeting, somebody
Yeah,
like,
especially now when you're basically at home and available to your work at all
and
times.
again,
that
what's their
creates-
work style? For me, I
Yeah.
don't respond to text. I see them pop up on my WhatsApp on my computer, and I constantly minimize them because I'm in the moment and really focusing on something and
Right.
that kind of thing. And so, like, again, you might be different. You might respond in the moment, whereas somebody else may not. And those are things you don't really have figured out. You later in dating, you start to figure those
Yeah,
things out, and you
maybe,
have
a little bit,
conversations
yeah.
about those. But and I think because there is such a fear of, like, that I'm just going to be dropped off and somebody's going to ghost me. I think that is, like, so ingrained in it. And there's it feels like from a lot of our friends, there's a real need to, like, define the relationship really quick. When we were, we were friends. And
Yeah,
even when
we-
it was like, we're clearly going on dates right now, but we're friends and we were clearly
I think
interested
it was
in
like,
each other.
let's see maybe if
Let's see if this
if there's-
works.
if there's a romantic side of this friendship or not.
Yes,
kind of things.
exactly. And granted, like, like we said, there was a lot of things that, like, we didn't have to work against any of these things because they weren't even tools and things that were there for us. Sometimes I would get home from something and Pat
Well-
had left me a voice message, be like, hey, would you like to meet up at this place? And it was 2 hours later and I had missed it and missed the opportunity.
I mean, we did
but-
have the advantage of, like, we lived on a university campus.
True. There are many different
So
things, obviously.
we weren't that far from each other
Yeah.
at all times. So
Yeah.
that was convenient, but yeah. So
Yeah, exactly. And just thinking, I think that's the thing, thinking about, like, what kind of conversations are, you can't read somebody's body language through a text. You can't read somebody's face, whether they're, like, shocked or happy or sad, or those, you think you can read that in a text, but you could, I mean, I even have done this before. We had a whole conversation recently with people that are younger than us of whether you put a full stop, or in the States you call
Oh,
it a
yeah,
period,
gosh.
at the end of a text or not, because that's seen as, like, forceful and that you're upset with the person. And I thought, oh my gosh,
yeah.
I
I was just trying to be proper with my, how I
grammar.
write things.
And we were told actually that seemed as like really aggressive.
Yeah.
And so even things like that can get missed in translation if you're from different cultures. Like
Oh,
there's
gosh.
all so many different
There's so many
things of
things
like
that-
the way that some of our friends from different cultures word their text that I think like, ooh, have I done something?
Yeah.
Like, are they mad at me? Or those kind of things? And like, they're not. That's just how they text. Or that I realize I haven't been formal enough in my text and I didn't put the number of X's
Or yeah, exactly. Or if
or-
there's an X, like, is that like a friendly kiss or is that a romantic kiss
yeah,
that you're
in the
sending
States,
me?
if we
Like,
put an XXX after a text, like
Yeah.
we'd be like, what?
yeah.
But there's some things in the culture here of you do that with friends and things like that. But do you do that with a male friend or a female friend? It's so
It's-
confusing. But again, if we're confused in that stuff, and like I said, and we're
Yeah.
miscommunicating in our text, and we've been married for almost 19 years, like it's hard. And I feel for you singles out there that are doing this and are in this dating profile world and this, texting and the idea that you can have constant communication with each other. But like, is that really a good thing?
Yeah.
I have my own views and thinking like maybe it's not. And then how can you have a conversation of like maybe we should do this so we like anticipate talking to each other. And I don't know how your entire day went when I meet up with you the next time because some of our friends have said I don't have a lot to talk about because when we get together, I
Well,
already
'cause
know
everything's-
everything.
Yeah, because everything's done in real time.
And
rather
it's
than-
so much better to hear somebody's story if you have the option.
Yeah.
Somebody's story in real time and like hear their emotion and get to and then you get to know them better and see if it's a right fit for you because you're seeing how they responded to certain situations and how that has like affected them in the tone of voice and everything and how they're talking about it versus in a text. I don't know where and how we end this, but
basically, our profiles would not have matched up.
we would not have matched. And if we had been, we would not have made it if texting was our form of communication all the time. I mean,
gosh,
is that bad to say that I don't think we would?
No, it wouldn't have.
Because we
It
were
just
not
wouldn't
good at
have.
communicating with each other when we first started dating. And to throw texting in there.
Well, there was a lot more into that.
there was
goes into that.
Well, yes, but I'm saying baseline, we were not good at communicating, and throwing texting
were-
as our
yeah.
form of communication would not have been
No.
good.
I think too. I think even that idea of feeling like we had to be connected at all times, you would not have liked that.
Oh no, I need my
the
space.
fact that I needed to know where you were at 24/7, you would have hated that.
Oh,
it would
I
have been
wouldn't
a
liked it
red flag
at
for you.
all. Yeah, it would have been a big red flag for me.
So I think,
But again, that's our personalities
right,
and stuff like
and
that
I think
too.
so. I just think it's yeah. I mean, I think just that. I don't know. I don't know how to end it, but I think it's just
some things to think about.
it's just just the process. Like especially if you are somebody that's on those sites or looking to date somebody, it's having similar interests and stuff. There's good things and bad things about that, and I mean, always give a person a go. It's not those profiles aren't a person's full identity in a big way.
Exactly. And knowing that if you decide that your dating relationship is going towards something like a more serious relationship or marriage, I hope that you're not going to be sitting next to each other texting one another. You're going to have to learn how to communicate face to face.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the key as we've worked with people in like prepping them for marriage or in marriage and stuff like that. And we're not experts, we're not qualified counselors and therapists or anything like that. But a lot of the stuff we have seen and trends we have seen is like
or that we've experienced ourselves.
Is then you're forced to have conversations face to face that are the hard conversations, and you can't do it through text.
Yeah.
You need some practice in that before you get to that stage. And so asking, where are we in this relationship? Like, how do you feel about this thing? Or we might disagree on this topic, or like have those conversations in person as best as you can. And I know COVID has been so hard because you can't have those conversations, but if you can Zoom and at least see the person,
Yeah, that's still awkward though.
that's still awkward. I know, but it's a little bit better than texting. But anyways, it's because if you're headed towards something and you're making a decision whether that's what dating is. What did you used to say to your high school boys you used to volunteer with? You're
either gonna break up or you're getting married. Like those are the two options.
Exactly.
As you're dating.
Exactly. And so you have to make decisions in that. Which direction are we going here? And so a lot of those decisions, face to face is easier. To
But
make those
super
decisions.
important to have single people in your
Oh
life.
my gosh, yes. Yes, we
Super
should. We'll
important.
have to maybe talk more in depth about that at another time. But
Yeah. It's just so impactful to our house and our family
and us and
us, and just it's really fun. So
exactly. Well, those are our
some simple
thoughts and our musings on just conversations we've been having
Things.
with our single friends recently. And I don't know, maybe tell us, how is it for you?
Yeah, we would
As
love to know.
someone, if you're single and out there dating, and that kind of stuff, are any of these things resonating with you?
Yeah. Or are we just like, you don't understand, you old people?
We old people
Yeah.
that didn't have texting or even cell phones when we started dating.
Yes.
But
my cell phone is in the science museum just down the road here.
that's an example.
That's crazy. I'm not that old, but still, my cell phone is
you're
in
vintage,
a museum.
honey. It's vintage,
Crazy.
vintage. A great quality vintage.
Interesting. Thank you for saying that. Mhm.
You're welcome. Well, yes. So let us know your thoughts. Let us know of stories too. Are always great to hear. We'd love to hear from you.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks for joining us on today's episode of the Laurent Collective podcast. If you enjoyed today's podcast, be sure to subscribe and leave a review, which helps others find our podcast. Continue the conversation with us over on Instagram at Laurent Collective.
We look forward to going deeper than just surface talk with you again next week.